We are so excited to be able to have a chat with Indigenous hip-hop artist Ryan Clapham, also known as Dobby, as a part of the Platform Sessions Inaugural NAIDOC Week special podcast. Dobby is a proud Filipino and Aboriginal musician. A multi-skilled musician, Dobby is a rapper, drummer, composer and producer and has performed at some of the biggest festivals across the country. Hope you enjoyed this NAIDOC Week special with Dobby.
I'd just like to start by acknowledging that we are very blessed and grateful to be recording this interview on beautiful, beautiful Gadigal country, one of the many countries of this land that many people call the Eora Nation. Beautiful Gadigal country is where Sarah and I both studied, and now we're here doing this interview. So we're both very grateful and blessed to be on this country doing this work.
Hello.
Hello.
So nice to see you.
It's good to see you.
Welcome to the Platform Sessions, Ryan Clapham, also known as Dobby. Before we get into it, would you mind just introducing yourself for everybody?
Sure. My name is Ryan Clapham. I'm a proud Filipino and Mordowari musician. I call myself a drapper, which is a drummer and rapper. Filipino on my mum's side. She came from Tacloban in the Philippines in 1985. And on my father's side, I'm Mordowari. My grandmother was born and raised in Brewarrina, northwest New South Wales. Her father, my great-grandfather, was born, under the birthing tree on the Colgo River in Mordowari country, Warrangu, New South Wales.
Oh my gosh, that is beautiful. Before we get into the actual podcast, there's a few things I feel like we should disclaim. So, first of all, we're recording this in April, and this will be part of our NAIDOC Week special, which will come out in July. So there's a few things we might be talking about in the future tense and past tense, but we just want to put that in there. But this is how the stars aligned with recording this in April. And the other is, which I'm rather chuffed to be able to announce, is we met at university.
That's right.
In 2012 at University of New South Wales, and we completed our Bachelor of Music together. I have memories of studying theory with you one night in the thing.
John Peterson.
Exactly. But my God, I have just loved following your journey and success. Just so proud of you, to be honest, just seeing what you've been up to.
Yeah, no, thank you so much.
But from my perspective, it's been so interesting because at university, you were a jazz drummer.
Yeah.
And so over the years, you've kind of evolved into this newer sound and this hip hop. So I want to know if we can start with, how did you develop into that? And I think I read that you did Indigenous studies as an honours. Is that?
Yeah, that's
did
right.
That evolve into the Dobby and the hip hop?
Totally. Yeah, I look back at my studies at UNSW with you, and it was just, first of all, I really am so thankful for UNSW because I think like most people in Sydney, I grew up wanting to try and get into the con.
Yes.
Especially in jazz.
Always.
It's whatever.
Thing,
yeah. So we all do that. And then I didn't get in, but I think the stars aligned for me in order to be able to express my hip hop self, because I don't think I would have been able to be as free musically.
No, probably not.
Yeah. So I feel like UNSW fostered that. And our teachers, Christine Logan, John Peterson, John Napier, they all were really, they encouraged me to rap. Like I did it for my final exam.
Right, I see.
I drummed and I rapped because I started off on piano at age 7, and then I started to really fall in love with the drums in high school. But all the while I was so interested in hip hop.
Right.
But there's not a pathway,
No.
there's no pathway. So even still to this day, I don't think it's really looked on in as academic a way as classical or jazz, right? So I think going to UNSW helped me kind of like integrate it in. And then, 100%. And then with the honors degree, it was a new degree that we were the lab rats, like they tested it on us.
The guinea pigs.
Yeah, the guinea pigs. Because they said to us, we're trying out this new honours degree, honours in Indigenous studies. But the way that I did it was a bit of a diagonal from the Faculty of Music.
Okay.
School of Arts and Media.
Sam or something.
Yeah. To Nuragili, which is the Indigenous Centre.
Yes, yeah.
And I took all of the music studies that I learned there to here to focus it on Indigenous hip hop.
Right.
So it all kind of like triangulated around that, you know,
Okay.
everything that I was doing at that time. And I'm really lucky to say this. Everything, my work, my study, it was all centered around either Indigenous studies or music.
Right.
It was one or the other.
A constant connection from the start then.
Yeah, which is what I was, you know.
Yeah.
I am an Indigenous musician, so it always felt like it was kind of, I was being informed by it, and I was informing it.
Yeah.
It was, kind
of feeding each other.
100%, very symbiotic. Yeah,
lovely. That's beautiful. I didn't know that. That's so interesting to know. So this is a NAIDOC special. So this year's NAIDOC week theme is Keep the Fire Burning, Black, Loud and Proud. So I want to first ask, how will you be celebrating NAIDOC week this year?
Yeah, I think it's a really great theme. You know, I think of Keep the Fire Burning as, you know, continuing the fights on all fronts that we're doing, and I'm thinking about, you know, especially what I'm talking about in my music, the ecological fight.
Yeah.
You know, the fight for environmental rights, the fight for water rights, the fight for Indigenous authority on our back burning, our controlled burning. You know, just we have so much understanding of this land and waterways that, you know, keeping the fire burning is to keep fighting for those
Yes.
Positions,
Yep.
you know. So that's what I first think about. But also, you know, the fight, like in order to be able to be recognized, you know, and not just constitutionally, but to be able to just be societally respected.
Yeah.
And to not, you know, my Indigenous brothers and sisters who are darker than me, continuing to be targeted by police, you know, or to be, you know, constantly, you know, killed at the hands and neglect of police in custody. So there is so much to fight for.
Yeah.
So that's what I think about when I think about keeping the fire burning. We have to be loud about that. We have to be proud about that.
In terms of your music and artistry, does that theme kind of come into your music? Because to me, I hear it in your new singles, especially Ancestor. Yeah. Do you feel like it's kind of intermingled there with your...
For sure.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, Ancestor, the most recent song that I've put out, is a very introspective one. A very introspective one. And there's a line at the end where I say every single town is a crime scene, bloody and gory. Policy can take us all apart in its glory. 80,000 years, that's a hell of a story. It's ours to tell, no one telling it for me. And so I'm trying to, with that song and with the album to come, fight for our seat at the table. And again, it's to do with the environment. It's to do with our culture. It's to do with our community, to be heard, to be respected, to be held, to be supported. Yeah.
Do you feel that, because to me, like, you're providing a voice with your music to all those themes. Does that come naturally to you with that? It just seems...
I mean...
Because it's so accessible.
Yeah.
And relatable to hear those texts and those lines from your mouth.
Yeah, right.
So it just seems very, like, with the theme of keeping the fire burning and loud, proud, it just seems like that is what you're doing on the daily basis. So it just seems, I just wonder if...
Totally. I mean, I really feel that there's like an obligation for me, you know, and there's a responsibility for me to, you know, these aren't just my stories. These are my community stories. They're my family's stories. It's my grandmother that I speak for. It's my great-grandfather. It's my great-great-grandmother that I speak for. And the people of Warrangu, Warrangu that I speak for. You know, I can't speak over them or for them, but I'm informed by them. And so, you know, this album is not a cultural story. It's a culturally informed story. So I have a lot of voices, you know, that I have heard and have recorded and are in my head when I write songs like Ancestor and Dippy and Pachulinya, the song beforehand, you know. So it's ancestral. Yeah.
Brilliant. And this is a question from, obviously, me as a non-Indigenous Australian to an Indigenous. How can we support First Nations musicians during NAIDOC week and just generally feel like we should be more informed in the culture and the music that's there, but how do we do that?
Well, I feel like, since 2020, there has been a very big shift in the collective thinking. A lot more people are switched onto it, especially younger people. Younger people are really onto it, the majority of us. And I feel like that's what needs to keep happening. We have a good momentum, so we just got to all keep the fire burning.
Yeah, nice.
We got to all do it. It's if there's anything I should add to it is to kind of shift your thinking from it being an obligation, like a chore. It's not like no one should have to do this out of guilt. It should be done out of pride.
Yeah.
That's a big thing that I'm talking about in Ancestor and this album is like, my family comes from Warrangu, where the fish traps are set. These fish traps, these stones set all across the Barwon River, have been there for 40,000 years. That predates Jesus. That predates the pyramids. It's one of the oldest human-made constructions on the face of the planet. If we can't all, as Australians, be proud of that, then I don't know what we can be proud of.
I wonder if you can talk to me about the relationship between culture and country and hip-hop, because it seems like they are somehow perfectly matched. And I wonder if you can explain that.
It is perfectly matched. I feel like hip-hop and culture, not just Aboriginal culture, but culture in general, because it is inherently a culture itself. Yeah. So the fundamental building blocks of culture are interchangeable. They fit. They slot in perfectly. The four elements of hip hop are DJing, rapping, breakdancing, and graffiti. Right? It's the same in Aboriginal culture. The DJing is our music, the didge, the clapsticks, the possum skins for women. Like we have our music that we play. The breakdancing is our corroboree, how we kick up the dust to Bayami and how we dance in the sand. The graffiti is our body paint, our ochre that we paint ourselves and we represent our different countries, Nyamba, Barrambinya, Gadigal. And then the rapping is our oral storytelling, our song lines from generation to generation. So it's already there. Yeah. And for both cultures here in particular, the fifth element is knowledge, because none of those things would matter if we didn't have knowledge to be able to use, through those conduits. Yeah, exactly. So if there's no stories to tell, then there is no culture. So hip hop, and that tells me two things. One, yes, hip hop works really well in Aboriginal culture and any other culture. But the other thing is that let's give credence to hip hop, because hip hop should be really respected for that matter, It is the future. Yeah, definitely. I just find it so accessible. Yeah. And 100%. Relatable. Totally. And, you listen to it, almost to me provides like a platform for me to like listen to what you're saying in a really clear, non-muffled way that sometimes I think, other forms of genres don't seem to have that connection to people. It seems to cut straight through, to me anyway. Yeah. I feel the same. Yeah. I'm a little biased because I'm a rapper as well. But I feel, I've always said that it feels like the most direct form of music. It's not that you can't be an activist in any other form, of course, right? Like you can in jazz or classical, whatever. Yeah. But with rap, you can really tell it how it is, and you can tell your story directly. And like you said, it's accessible. Like you don't need a $20,000 cello; you just need your voice. Yeah. 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 Exactly. Your music has such a way of encouraging thought and reflection of country and sharing stories of country, some of which is educational and political, but also, for me, sharing perspectives and truths as we just said, in a very accessible and relatable way. We kind of said this before about the responsibility of voice and everything like that. But do you find it an easy extension of you because of the passion and how strongly you're intertwined with this? It just seems like it's an extension of you as a person to speak these. I just wonder if you want to talk about how you find writing it. I just find it so. I think it comes back to just growing up listening to hip hop. I listened to a lot of Lauryn Hill and Missy Elliott, Eminem. Ice Cube and Snoop Dogg. And,
The classics.
yeah, the classics, Far Side, but also but jazz, right, as well.
Yeah.
Like I was really into that, listening to jazz early on, and I am blessed. I'm very, very lucky and grateful to have the musical upbringing that I had. Like I really loved just music, right?
Yes.
And just getting into the drums, feeling the bass, feeling the beat, but then listening to the words, you know? And then it just came out of mimicry. Like I just wanted to be like Snoop Dogg or to be like Eminem and to try my own story. And a lot of it's cringe because I feel like that's what happens as a kid. You try and
You do mimic,
copy
though.
them.
That's normal.
But that's normal.
It
Like,
is.
that's a part of the process.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's how it kind of naturally happened.
Yeah, okay. Brilliant. Lovely. We must talk about your debut album coming out in June, which this will come out afterwards, but yes. Now, Warrangu?
Yeah,
River?
Warrangu. Yeah.
Warrangu River Stories. I just want to, the singles that have been released so far are stunning and a celebration of culture. And to me, a fusion of genres. And I know that it's got a bit of classical and a bit of hip hop and a bit of jazz influence. Yeah, so this was part of the Peter Sculthorpe fellowship that you received in 2017, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you tell us about that experience? Because it seems like it's been a ongoing process, this album,
100%.
and it seems like this mammoth,
Yeah.
I don't know, thing of yours that's coming out very soon.
Totally. It's really wild. Like, it feels like yesterday, but also it's been
Years.
7 years?
Yeah.
17, 18, 19, you know?
Do the quick
Like
maths.
long. And I remember when I got it, I feel like my life had sort of changed because my thinking around it at the time was like, I'm not a composer, you know? And I still feel a lot of imposter syndrome as well. Because,
Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that.
Oh yeah, no, a hell of a lot because well, I give a lot of thanks to Chris Sainsbury. He's the head of composition at ANU.
Okay.
He was one of the I was one of the people that he tapped on the shoulder to say, I think you should apply for this composers initiative for Indigenous peoples. And at the time I was like, I'm not a composer. But then going through it, I realized that, you know, some things, yes, are hard and I've got to like upskill.
Yeah.
But other things are fine. You know, you shouldn't have to feel like you're not allowed in that space. Everyone can compose.
Yeah.
And then after that, I applied. I submitted a piece from that, and I got the fellowship. You know, and ever since I knew it was going to be about the river, but I followed.
Was that your choice, the theme?
I knew it was going to be about the river, but I didn't know exactly what the story would be. So I talked to a good friend of mine and also, you know, a community member, Brad Stedman in Brewarrina. And, you know, I said, hey, you know, Brad, I want to write about the river, but I need your help. And he was like, all right. I was in Brie at the time, and he was like, all right, pick me up tomorrow at 8. I was like, all right. And then he walked me through this dry riverbed, the Bergen River in Brewarrina, and that's how the album starts.
Wow.
And ends as well. And it's the story is about the Murray-Darling Basin, the significance of it to 3 million people that depend on this, black, white, whoever. We all, you know, farmers, we all depend on this river. And it's about the cultural significance of it and the over-irrigation, the damage, the devastation, the destruction of it by privatization of water, floodplain harvesting, corporate greed, cotton farms, almond plantations that, you know, drain the river dry. So there's a lot in this album, and I just really hope that it can, if anything, continue that conversation because, you know, it's
I have no
something
doubt
that,
it will because the
Yeah,
singles that
hopefully.
are out thus far
Yeah,
are
thank
doing
you.
that.
Yeah, thank you.
And 1700 in the album or
Yeah,
or not in the album.
Yeah. Well, that's another. My dad. This makes me really proud. Dad called me the other day and said it was the best thing I've done so far, which made me really
It's just
happy. Like,
for the do listen to it. It's on your YouTube channel. The 1700.
yeah, and
I
it's on
believe.
Spotify
It's on
as well.
Spotify
Actually, yeah.
It is literally an educational lesson
Thank
in
you.
5.5 minutes,
Yeah.
and it's so beautifully done.
Yeah.
And then listening to Ancestor, and it's just it takes you straight straight through to the culture and country. And I just thought,
Yeah.
you're onto something here. Is that what the album feels like overall?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, you know, I'm confident in it because it's not just my voice in it. You know, I've recorded Brad, I've recorded Uncle Tommy Barker, I've recorded Lily Shearer, my cousin Auntie Lily Shearer. there are community members, Auntie Josie Bino, you know, they're all in it. So if they're in the story and they're happy with how it's going, then I feel like it's on the right track.
Beautiful.
So, you know, and then another thing with 1770 as well is that piece was written on a piano that is that old.
Oh, really?
That piano is literally 1770. It was made in 1770 and then it was shipped over to here by a guy named Henryan, I don't know. And it's still at the ANU piano lab.
Right.
They've got a whole bunch of pianos there, and they said, write a piece for this thing. And I stayed at the ANU for a week in Canberra.
Yeah.
And I wrote it, and my whole thing was like, I want to tell this piano what you've missed. You know, since you've been born, this is what's happened. You know, and I wanted it to be Brewarrina specific. So my family bloodline is in the story. You know, and it means a lot to me. Yeah.
Beautiful. Absolutely
fitting it into 5 minutes was probably one of the hardest things I've had to do.
Well, yeah, like you're putting a whole thousands of years of, you know,
oh my God.
not thousands of years, but a long time.
Totally.
It's just in 5.5 minutes is an achievement, let alone.
Thank you.
No, that's so good.
Yeah.
So the album will be out by the time this podcast is out. So I'm very excited
I'm so excited
for that to come out. And
thank you.
My last question for you, you've had some amazing performances and opportunities over the last couple of years, and for me it's been like, wow, what are you up to next? What is the highlight or the biggest pinch me moment for you thus far with your career as Dobby?
Oh man, there's
or top 3 you can do.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay,
5.
all right, I'll do top 3.
Yeah.
One of the biggest moments is composing for the Elevate Sydney Sky show, the drone show. That was crazy. I just still can't believe that I got the chance to do that. It was 600 drones.
My gosh.
That created a story of the Sydney Harbour in the sky, you know, in just above Circular Quay, and I made the music for it.
Wow.
But what was special about it was that it was a Gadigal. It was about Gadigal land. It was an Aboriginal led, creatively led story.
Yep.
Like I had my uncle Matty Doyle, who's a Murrawari man, and my cousin Kelsey Barker, Kelsey Iris, a Murrawari singer as well. So it was Murrawari led, and that made me feel so proud, you know. That was a special moment. And then more recently, actually, doing this song 1770 in front, like whenever I get the chance to perform in front of a crowd I never would have performed to, that is an achievement for me.
Wow.
I played to 230 older white folks.
Right. You literally the audience that
They were,
you're not sure how it's going to go down. Yeah.
And I was curated in a classical series called Nothing. So it was pieces all about nothing that had John Cage in that. By Richard Tongyetti.
Yeah.
And so he had me wedged in between, you know, like a Beethoven piece and then another piece, right? And then it was like this rapper in the middle. And I performed 1770 and these other ones. My cousin was in the audience and I just cried. Like it is because I was really nervous and then it came through and people like
how
it was
did,
just
how
really
did it go down like
it was
really well?
Really good. And I even heard one person say, and I feel like this is an achievement, they were like, I liked the Beethoven, I liked the rapper, I didn't like the Ligeti, but I was like, yes,
you're like, get in. That's so good.
Screw you, Ligeti. Nah,
Ligeti's great, but I think that's a huge achievement to be like, oh, someone preferred my music over Ligeti. That's great.
So I feel like that was really special to me because that's where minds can shift, you know?
Having the impact.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you have a third one?
Oh, yeah, third. Oh, yeah, I did say a third. I think one of the other amazing times is playing Blues Fest. I feel like that was really special as well. But I'm just excited to perform again, and I'm really excited with what this album will bring, you know, because it's and Warrangu premiering this piece actually was very special as well.
Was that done previously at the art gallery?
It was, in 2022.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like
2 years ago.
I know. Oh my God.
Gosh. So you premiered, did you perform the entire album? That's
right. I performed the entire album maybe 4 days after my grandmother had passed.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and you know, she's audibly is a part of the album, so it was a lot for me.
Was it quite tough to
It was
perform?
really tough, and my family was in the front row in the corner. It was just like way too much.
It's like it's all happening.
Yeah, I was like, wow, damn. But it was
She
felt.
was probably with you then. Or
yeah,
she would have been
special.
with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gosh.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So I feel like actually that would definitely be part of my top 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for talking to us about
this has been great.
NAIDOC Week and your music and how we can contribute to, Indigenous culture and NAIDOC Week. And it's lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. It's lovely to catch up with you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed this podcast.
To find out more about this artist, check out their session on our YouTube channel. And if you'd like to see more, find our socials at the Platform Sessions.
Keep in touch. Cheers.
Cheers.